My name is Veronika, and as my name says, and probably as you can hear from my accent, I'm Russian. I'm coming from Siberia, a city called Novosibirsk. Don't get a shock if you never heard of the city. It's really far, and it's a geographical center of Russia. And the reason why I was born there is because both of my parents were engineers, military engineers, and it's a very well protected area from East, West, USA, and all other aliens. So it was, if you want, the Silicon Valley of Russia, where all military engineering was done. Having said that, in 1985, as Russia was opening for the world, I decided to move to Germany, where I studied economics and law. And basically since then, I live in Europe. I have to say I really enjoy it, so it's my new home. In terms of my private life, I'm 47 now. And that is a moment when I decided to become a mom. And I'm in the 5th month of my pregnancy, very happy, in very happy expectations of my baby to come. It was a conscious decision to become a single mom. So it was an IVF treatment which I went through in a wonderful Greece. Et voila. Obviously, a lot of people would ask themselves a question, why IVF, why 47? Is it a decision which came all of a sudden to my mind? Now I'm bored to death, so I'm getting a baby. No, it's not the case. I am coming from a very traditional family, if you want, a biblical family in the sense of values. So my dad used to say, a family with no kids is not a family, and if he could have 10 children, he would have 10 children. But he equally always said as well, two people, when they meet each other, can make a decision about having children or not having children before they, if you wish, are certain to stay together till the death separates them. At the moment when you have a baby, you have no right to separate, because then the third party is involved, and unfortunately children cannot make any influence to the decision of parents to get divorced. And that is how I grew up. And as I said, my dad was an amazing dad, and I always was looking for a man who would be an amazing dad for my baby. And I had a lot of relationships, but then at the moment when I would ask myself, is it the man with whom I can spend my life till the death separates me? Is it the man? Is it the father of my kid? And every time the answer was no. Okay, so obviously I was looking for a love of my life and for a father of my kid till I was 47, and that was the moment when I said, probably I should separate myself from this idealistic idea of mama, papa, and actually being a single happy mother is as much as to have a happy mama and happy papa. Is it ideal? Ask me later, or probably ask my son later. But I'm sure and very confident to give a lot of love and a lot of dedication to my son. Obviously, in a certain point in time, and that is probably what I could advise to every single woman, to every single girl, like you should freeze your eggs, because even if you don't want to have a child today, or even if you are waiting for a Mr. Perfect to come, do not leave it up to the chance. Freeze your eggs and get your freedom to make your decision up to your 50 or 51. So yes, I thought about it. That's why I made a decision to freeze my eggs. Probably at that moment in time, still hoping that Mr. Perfect is to come, because it took another 7 years to come to the conclusion, I'm not waiting anymore, and now I'm going to get a baby by myself. But if I would have a daughter one day, that is what I would advise her to do. We women are always a little bit of a victim of this biological clock, and you know what? No. I mean, I think that 21st century and the progress which science made makes us as free and as strong as men, if you wish. So now we are free to make a decision when, how, and it all on our terms. Why Greece? Obviously, this is a very big decision and it's a big unknown. And to everyone who starts this process, I would only advise make your research and spend enough time to this, like dedicated to this project, and try to look into all possible options. There are a lot of online platforms consolidating knowledge about countries who are open for IVF treatment, and you can find also ratings of clinics online. And in my particular case, through attending a lot of webinars and getting a lot of information, I came into contact to a UK-based organization, IVF Friends, who propose also you online consultation and phone consultation. And after talking to a consultant of IVF Friend organizations, I got advised to go to Greece and to be in contact with Dr. Karpuzis, whom I can really highly recommend. Not only because he is a very highly educated doctor in a field of IVF, but also because he's a very big enthusiast of what he's doing, and if you wish, he's burning with you for the success of what you're doing. It was also a very professional and private treatment, so in all of the long-lasting process, which of course in my case took longer due to COVID, he was always consulting me on the phone personally, so there was no a middleman in between. And funny enough, shortly before I had to fly to Greece, I got infected with COVID. So we had to postpone the entire treatment, and that is where Dr. Karpuzis had to play also psychologist and psychiatrist, because of course for me it was a big shock that I was preparing for such a long time, and now I had to again postpone already after taking medication in order for transfer to happen. But you know what, I think that like no drama, no stress, do what is needed and be positive, because that is what is a big factor for success. That is his biggest motto. I mean, I can really highly recommend the clinic and Dr. Karpuzis in particularly. The obvious question is, why not Belgium? Why Greece? In Belgium it was not possible because I was a single woman, and because I was a woman who just separated from a boyfriend. I went through a psychological interview with a psychologist of a clinic, who asked me 25 questions, including what are you going to tell to your kid because you're going to be an old mother. What are you gonna do? Children are very cruel, and if he says you're a grandmother and not a mother, how are you gonna to manage it? You're all by yourself here. I found this very, very strange, because I mean, my parents, I was a very late born child, so my parents were an adult parents, and I always took it as a positive thing. They had time for me. They had made this decision consciously, so I was the happiest child on the planet. So and then, like, you know, what I'm going to tell to my son about my choice and why he was born the way he was born, it will all depends on how my child would be, right? So and I think that was the most negative experience, or the most negative dialogue which I had regarding my choice. Because obviously, to start with, I don't talk about this choice and IVF treatment as such with no one but my friends, because I think it's nobody's business how I became pregnant and how I'm gonna to I mean, like, the only thing which I want to say, I became a mother on my terms. And it was a conscious decision to be a single mother. All of my friends are very happy for me. I did not have any discussion regarding religion or regarding, but how is it like no one is going to know who your father is. There is little concern from my side of my friends, like what I'm going to say to, for example, my company, right? Obviously, I'm not going to discuss with my company, like, you know, who is the father of my kid or anything, but obviously the questions will come. And some of my friends do work for Toyota, and one of the proposals would be like, if you are asked who is the father, you just look curiously and a little bit naughty and say, I cannot tell it to you because you know him. And then you basically leave the room or change the subject of the conversation. So that's basically how I'm going to approach it. I work for an automotive company which consists to 99% out of men, and obviously it's boys clubs if you wish, with few exemptions, and very often I find myself as a single female around the meeting table but also around dinner table. So I think that all of them can start to look at each other and start to get a guess who the lucky one is. So I think that my son will have some features of Mr. X and some features of Mr. Z and Mr. Y. It will be an interesting game. I mean, like, when I was growing up, I thought that I am growing up in a very classical family. But thinking about it now from West European perspective, probably it wasn't. Both of my parents were engineers, as I mentioned, and my mom was a highly educated woman who worked all her life long on top of being a chef of the family. Papa was the most loving husband and most loving father, and he worked even more than mom. He spent half of the year on business trips. I would say that he was a stronger engineer and he was one of the smartest men I know in my life. Nevertheless, the entire salary would end up on Mama's bank account, and I don't know if my papa had ever more than 10 cents in his pocket because Mama was the boss of the family. So if you wish, she was managing her job and her family, and obviously Papa was earning probably more because he was the one to have most business trips, which were paid double to Soviet Russia times. But on the other hand, at home, Mom was clearly the one to rule the world around. Unfortunately, my parents passed away in 2015, and if there is one big regret which I have in my life is that they're never gonna to meet Victor, my son, who will be named upon Papa. So he's gonna to have Papa's initials and hopefully Papa's character. Did I make this decision now because I want to replace my core family? I wouldn't say so. And as I said, I would just only regret that I did not come to this conclusion as long as my parents were alive, because they would be over the moon to meet their grandchild. I wouldn't say that it's linked in any way to the death of my parents. I would say just linked to my desire, which I always had in me, to have a child, and it's linked to an understanding that like approaching 50, if you want to do it, you do it. So I didn't have enough or more time left, because also for IVF treatment there is a legal limit of 50 years old. If you wish, I would say that Corona contributed more to that. I'm traveling a lot for my business. In my pre-Corona life, I was spending more time in plane and in hotels as in my own house. In Corona times, I had a time to come to my peace and to think about a lot of things. And if there was one thing which contributed to my decision to go ahead, it was Corona. Women without children. It's a very interesting subject. You would not believe it, but I'm surrounded by women without children. And more than that, women without children by whom I'm surrounded are in happy relationships for a very, very long time. And most of them are married. And obviously, I'm Russian, very direct, and living a little bit like my way or the highway. So when I first was confronted with a friend of mine who would have 4 dogs, 5 cats, but would never want to have a kid, I said, "Are you sure? How is it possible? You have a husband." And I was completely in misunderstanding on how, because like, you know, if you are a woman who wants to have a child and the only element which is missing is a happy life with a husband, of course you look at your best friend who is happily married and tells you, no, for God's sake, it's a nightmare. Just when I think about having a child, I start to sweat. So I think that at the beginning I would try to persuade Susie to have a child, to the extent that she even went to see a psychologist, and psychologist told to her, "Susie, you do whatever you want in life, but you never get children." In the meantime, I have another 4 couples of friends where people say, "No, I don't want to have children." And in a way, I think that I changed my mind in the sense that if you don't have this instinct in you, you should not have children. Children are not a status symbol. Children are not something which you get per definition. Children is something which you should get only when you have a strong mother instinct in you. But nobody said that we all have same instincts, right? And in a way, it's absolutely unacceptable, the pressure which society puts on us. And it's absolutely unacceptable that it's even a subject for discussion that if you're getting married, as a next step, you're going to have a child. And it's completely unacceptable that everyone has to have a child. Why not everyone has a dog? Why not everyone has a cat? But why everyone has to have a husband or a wife, and why everyone has to have a child? So no, I mean, I'm absolutely, as I said, I'm surrounded by females who do not want to have children. But on the other hand, like me, I always wanted to have a child. And I think that the way they could never influence me in my decision not to want to have a child, I could never influence them to want to have a child. So here is, I believe it should be a conscious decision. It should be a very well thought through decision. And you really have to know that you want it. You know, it's very funny. I read now a lot of articles about pregnancy week 1, pregnancy week 2, pregnancy week 7. And then I read like, yeah, this is a week where most probably you will have your depression. And I'm like, how could, if you really want to have a child, if you wanted to have a child, if it's not that this child is just there by chance, which of course can happen, how is it possible that you are depressed if that is what you wanted? So to probably close the brackets, you have to know what you want. That's why you should not rush into having a child. You should not get a child because you want to save your relationship. You should not get a child because everybody gets a child. You should not get a child because it's a social pressure. You should get a child only if you have this strong wish to be a mother. Talking about pressure, if I felt a social pressure, if I would stay in Russia, probably I would feel a social pressure, because in Russia you normally get married with 21, 22, and if you are not, that is where all of your aunties, uncles start to kind of talk to you as if you would be having a cancer or something like that. It's just like really kind of oh, it's time to start to think about making your own family. And the funny anecdote I can tell you was about my sister. My sister got my niece with 24. She had to go to the hospital 1 month prior to delivery because she was considered to be a late birth. So they were afraid that the kid would have no nails, and in any case, she was surrounded by 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds who were giving birth. And with 24, you are already considered like as being an old mother. Till now, we are making jokes about it, especially now that I'm going to be a mother with 48. That is one part of it. Of course, it's changed. Also for Russia, I think that now women are getting children later. But there was a bit of a pressure which I had from my parents. Very subtle pressure. My dad was just crazy about kids, as I mentioned before, so he wanted to have grandchildren. But he was far too gentle and far too sophisticated to push for it, in comparison to my mom, who could just call me in the middle of the day. And I loved my mom to bits, and we talked to each other 5-6 times a day. Like we spent a lot of time together, in spite of the fact that I was living in Brussels and she was living in Novosibirsk, which is 7,000 kilometers away. Sometimes she would call me in the middle of the day and like taking me out of a very important meeting, and I would be like, Mom, is something happening? No, nothing is happening, but I just thought it's time for you to get children. And I'm like, no, Mommy, I'm in a meeting. Yeah, I understand you're in a meeting, but you have to understand that career is not everything in life, and that you have to start to think about getting children. I says, Mommy, what is it in concrete terms you want me to do? Do you want me to jump on one of the men in the meeting room? Or do you want me to say, sorry guys, I cannot participate in this meeting anymore because my mom told me I have to make a baby now? So yes, there was a little bit of pressure, and then I would just say, Mommy, sorry, I have to hang up, and she would say, oh, you're so rude to your mama. And then I would have to call her back and to apologize, and of course we would make it up. But yes, so for her it was a big point of concern, and as I said, it's very sad that she's not going to meet Victor, but I'm sure that they are seeing it all, and that they're giving their blessing, and that they're very happy for me. Like going this way. My sister also was very sweet lately. She said we were at a graveyard at Mama's and Papa's, and we told them about your new project. So we think they are very happy. So yes, a very happy moment. Why IVF and why not adoption? Because it's simply not possible if you are. I mean, I was very happy to give a mama to a child who has no mama and no papa. And if you ask me, I would choose that one rather than IVF treatment, because in a way, I never wanted my child not to have father. So I always considered it suboptimal, and I always said, should I not meet a man of my dream, I would adopt, because then you give a mama, at least a mama, to somebody who has no mama and no papa. But it's impossible if you're a single woman over 40. It's impossible. It's literally impossible to adopt, in spite of the fact that I'm very independent and that I have a very good salary and that I can stand up straight to whatever it means in terms of obligations. It's impossible. It's from legal point of view. It's just I checked different options. But from legal point of view, being single female, you are discriminated by law. And it's stupid. But I think that society should look into it, given the fact that there are so many children who would need more attention and who would be happy to have a mama. Hopefully a mama like me. I think I will be a good mama, a loving one. I think, I'm very blessed with my friends. I have I have few male friends, but good male friends. I think that Victor will have male role around him through my friends. In terms of a nanny, I don't mind, in all honesty, if it's a woman or if it's a man. At this particular moment, and I know probably you consider me light-minded, but I don't think about nanny. At this particular moment, I just hope that he's coming to the world healthy, and then we will see. But no, I didn't think about. It's a good idea. I will think about it. On the other hand, to find a nanny who would be a serious male figure in the life of Victor for a longer period of time, I think it will be challenging tasks, because I think that today most of the nannies are females. But in all honesty, I didn't look into it yet. I have to study it.